Tonight we will be discovering the island that appeared at low tide, a place that reveals itself only when the sea decides to step back and breathe. The story begins before dawn, when the shoreline is hushed and the world feels unfinished, as if it is waiting for permission to continue. The tide has begun to retreat, pulling itself gently away from the sand, leaving behind thin mirrors of water that catch the fading stars. Gulls stand quietly, unsure whether to wake, and the air carries the cool scent of salt and wet stone. If these quiet journeys help you unwind, subscribe for more calm bedtime stories to drift into sleep. Along this coast, the sea is treated with patience. People here know that water has moods, that it advances and withdraws not out of anger or generosity, but because it follows a rhythm older than footsteps. Or, at low tide, the beach stretches wider than usual, revealing smooth rocks, shallow pools, and long bands of darkened sand where the water has recently passed. On this particular morning, the tide pulls back farther than anyone remembers. The sea uncovers unfamiliar ground, pale and firm, patterned with shells that gleam faintly in the early light. Those who walk the shore feel a strange stillness, as though the land itself is holding its breath. Then someone notices it far out, beyond the usual reach of the beach, a rise in the sand where no rise has ever been before. At first it looks like a trick of shadow, but as the water continues to retreat, the shape grows clearer. A narrow strip of land emerges, stretching outward like a slow invitation. Beyond it, just above the remaining shallows, lies an island, small, quiet, and newly revealed. Its edges are soft, not jagged, and a low line of greenery crowns its centre. No waves touch it now. The sea has stepped aside. People gather at the shoreline, murmuring softly. No one rushes. The island does not feel like a prize or a challenge. It feels like a thought that has surfaced after a long silence. Some believe it has always been there, hidden beneath the water, waiting for the right moment. Others think the sea has created it overnight, shaping it gently and setting it down with care. A narrow path of damp sand leads toward the island, firm enough to walk but shining with moisture. After a long pause, a small group steps forward, moving slowly as if the ground itself might be listening. Their feet leave dark prints that fill with water behind them, erasing their passage almost as soon as it is made. The walk feels longer than it should. Sound changes with each step. The murmur of the shore fades, replaced by a deeper quiet, broken only by distant birds and the soft sound of breath. When they reach the island's edge, they find the sand warmer there, as though it has been waiting beneath the sea and remembers the sun. The island rises gently, no more than a small hill at its highest point. Short grasses ripple faintly, and smooth stones lie scattered, as if placed deliberately. There are no paths, no signs of human presence, no ruins or markings. Yet the place does not feel empty. It feels attentive. Those who step onto the island notice something else. The air feels thicker, slower. Movements become more careful without effort. Words seem unnecessary. One person kneels near a shallow hollow where rainwater is collected, clear as glass. And another rests a hand against a stone and feels a faint warmth, like stored sunlight. Near the centre of the island stands a single tree, small but strong, its roots gripping the earth firmly. Its leaves are pale green, almost silver, and they barely move even when the breeze reaches them. Around its base the ground dips slightly, forming a natural circle as though the island has shaped itself around the tree. People gather there without planning to. No one speaks. The silence is not empty. It is full, layered with sensations, heartbeat, breath, the distant sea waiting. As they stand together, memories surface quietly within each person, not memories of great events, but of moments left unfinished, a promise never spoken, a rest never taken, a goodbye rushed instead of felt. Some feel the urge to sit. Others lean against the tree's trunk and sense a steady strength passing upward through the roots and into their backs. A few close their eyes and picture moments they wish they had slowed down, moments that might have felt different if given more time. The island does not change these memories, but it softens them, allowing them to rest without weight. Time passes differently on the island. The sun rises higher, yet it does not feel later. Shadows shorten and soften, stretching and gathering like quiet breaths. The sea remains distant, as though respecting the stillness. Birds circle once overhead, then drift away, leaving the island wrapped in its own calm. Eventually someone notices the water again. Far out, the tide has stopped retreating. It hesitates, then begins its slow return. The path of sand leading back to shore darkens as water seeps into it, reshaping it grain by grain. There is no panic. The island does not feel like something to escape. But there is an understanding shared without words that this moment has a natural ending. The island has appeared not to be claimed, but to be visited. One by one, people begin to leave. They do not take anything with them. Not a stone, not a leaf, not even a shell. The island does not feel like a place that allows removal. It feels complete as it is. As feet touch the damp sand of the returning path, the sea moves closer, reclaiming the space it gave. The island remains visible, unchanged, watching calmly as water gathers around its edges. Those who reach the shore turn back to look. Slowly, patiently, the tide rises. Water wraps around the island's base. Mare then climbs its slopes. The grasses vanish, the stones disappear. The tree stands for a moment longer, its pale leaves catching the light. Then it too is swallowed gently by the sea. There is no splash, no violence. The island does not sink. It simply returns to where it came from. By the time the tide is fully in, the shoreline looks ordinary again. Waves roll in as they always have. The beach narrows. Someone walking later that day would never know anything unusual had occurred. Yet those who stood on the island feel changed. They move more slowly. They speak with softer voices. They pause before answering questions. Small decisions feel less urgent, and silence feels less empty. The island has left no mark on the land, but it has left a shape within them. Days pass, tides rise and fall as they always do. Some return to the shore at low tide, watching carefully, hoping. Most days nothing appears. The sea keeps its surface smooth and reflective, offering no hint. But occasionally when the tide retreats just a little farther than usual, the water pulls back in a familiar way. A pale strip of sand emerges, then another. And far out, barely visible, the island lifts itself into the light once more. Not everyone sees it. Some are too busy, some arrive too late. The island does not wait for crowds. It appears only when conditions are right, when the sea is calm and the air is quiet, and when those who notice are willing to walk slowly. Over time, stories spread. Some say the island shows people what they have been avoiding. Others say it simply reminds them to pause. No one argues. The island does not need explanation. Years later, children who once walked there grow older. They remember the warmth of the sand, the stillness around the tree, the way the world seemed to soften. When life becomes crowded and loud, they find themselves returning to the shore, not always to see the island again, but to remember that such stillness exists. The sea continues its endless rhythm. It gives and takes, reveals and hides. The island rests beneath the surface, patient, unchanged by time. It knows when to appear and when to remain unseen. And now, as your own breathing grows slow and even, you can imagine that island resting quietly beneath the water, waiting for the right tide and the right moment. May it remind you that some things arrive only when you slow down enough to notice, and that rest, like the sea, will always return, carrying you gently towards sleep.